boy! So this is a rumor combined with a rumor combined with conjecture extrapolated from a message board. It's a lot. It's really complicated. But hey guys, this news comes from Nintendo64, which is actually a really nice website. But this one is a little it's a doozy. So it is big rumor warning. Get your salt shakers out. Take it with a grain of salt. Just take the whole shaker, because I personally don't feel like super invested in this rumor, but well, I don't know. So the rumor, the headline is: a second 2D Zelda in 2019 isn't as unlikely as you think. So we've got to basically trace this back to a GameFAQs forum posting from 2 weeks ago. So when there was a direct coming the day before the direct, and they asked on the message board, Vergeman, do you have any final words? He didn't really, but someone else on the message board called Zenith Vidya said apparently an eShop 2D Zelda is happening. And Vergeman quoted him and said, I didn't see this was posted until now, but there is more I'll be talking about later. I will confirm that was part of the message I did send Zenith Vidya. There's kind of a swooping in and taking credit for the rumor, but this combined with some statements from Emily Rogers, who, again, take it with a lot of salt here. She had some predictions about how many Zelda games, some of them being true. So she predicted that a fourth Labo set would be announced, which just was, by the way, the VR kit, and that we'd get 4 eShop exclusive titles for Nintendo Switch this year, as well as, which is inclusive in 12 new Switch games this year, 4 of them being eShop exclusive. So we've started to get some announcements with that. We got Tetris 99 as an eShop exclusive, and then we've got Astral Chain, Box Boy Box Girl, Dragon Quest Builders 2, Super Mario Maker 2, Link's Awakening, all announced for Switch. So the conjecture being here that based on the combination of these rumors, that is possible we'll get a new 2D or a remake, an additional remake of a 2D Zelda game. Nintendo seems to be leaning towards a Four Swords Adventure, some kind of anniversary edition, or a remake of the anniversary edition that already came out. But yeah, that's the breakdown of this rumor without having to read it was a really long article on Nintendo Web 64, but that's the gist of it, folks. So the abridged version.
Yeah, so basically they are getting one rumor, combining it with another rumor, combining it with another rumor, and they're just putting everything together.
So,
or at least trying to.
Trying to, yeah. It seems like a lot of conjecture and a bit of a reach to me personally. Already getting Link's Awakening later this year, so I don't know what the odds are that we'd get a brand new Zelda game that hasn't been announced yet. But yeah, I don't know. It does seem neat, and it would be neat to have maybe just something small scale, like a Four Swords Adventure remake or something. So, thoughts, Jesse? Thoughts, impressions, viability?
We've gotten multiple Zelda games during the same year before. We've even gotten multiple 2D Zelda games around the same time. Mm-hmm. With this specific rumor, it's like we've gotten information from one announcement or one interview and placed it with information from another interview to come up with our own speculation, but that is using actual news and information that is confirmed, like the president of Nintendo saying that he wanted to put a big focus on multiplayer or online gaming and everything to push the Nintendo Online service for fans, and that Nintendo was going to put a big focus on DLC for people, whether it's for older games that have already been out for a while or brand new games having DLC. And then there was another interview with Al Numa where he said that he wanted to take the Breath of the Wild engine and the multiplayer from Triforce Heroes and basically combine them into a new game. So if you take those two individual pieces of information, you can kind of come to the conclusion that Nintendo's next big Zelda game is most likely going to be, or at least in some way, have some sort of online multiplayer aspect. But that's taking two confirmed pieces of news coming directly from Nintendo, whereas this is taking a rumor from one person, putting it with a rumor from another person, and then making up another rumor on their own.
Yeah, and I mean the one rumor does mention Zelda, but yeah, I don't know. It just feels to me like a reach. I'm not saying it's impossible, of course, because Nintendo pulls games out of their behind sometimes, and they're like, "Guess what? Here's an announcement. It's available today," and you're like, "What? Oh, okay, all right, thanks, Nintendo." So it's not impossible, but I don't know. For me, it just in my gut doesn't sit right. Like, doesn't feel like legit. I do think Four Swords Adventure would both be good fits because of that multiplayer aspect, which we've heard of Nintendo and Aonuma wanting to play around with some more. But personally, I think I would rather see the Oracle games be remade, because the Oracle games and the first Four Sword games are the only ones I can think of that now, with Link's Awakening coming out, do not have like any remake. Four Swords in itself wasn't a Link to the Past remake, but there's a Link to the Past remake, that and a Link Between Worlds. Now Link's Awakening has a remake. We've had the N64 games have remakes: Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD. So Skyward Sword, it does not have a remake, and the Oracle games don't, and Four Swords doesn't. But Four Swords Adventure had the Anniversary Edition that was mentioned in this article, and pretty much every other Zelda game under the sun has been remade. So,
Four Swords. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was done. It could work though.
Yeah, I was going to say Four Swords would fit with the online stuff that Nintendo said that they wanted to do.
Yeah, totally.
And they did remake it. Technically, it does count as a remake for the 3DS, the Anniversary Edition.
Yeah,
I think they added in a new dungeon. I'm not sure. And then they made it. But they made it easier to play. Like, instead of having to go to the start menu constantly to change weapons, because the 3DS has more buttons than the Game Boy Advance, they utilized some of those extra buttons.
Yeah.
And then there's the online functionality as well.
Yeah.
And then
you don't need all those link cables.
Yeah.
so many cables.
And also, I think they made it so that I'm not really sure on this, but I think that it runs natively on the 3DS instead of being emulated on the 3DS.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then if we look at Pokemon, the original Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, I think it was all three of them at least. It might have just been Red and Blue. Whenever they released it on the Nintendo 3DS, they went back and added online multiplayer for it as well. So if you downloaded it, you could just play with your friends or use it to send Pokemon to your Pokebank or whatever it was called at the time. So they have gone back to these older Game Boy Color games and added multiplayer to it. It's basically the same thing they've been doing to all of the NES multiplayer games on the Nintendo Online. shop, whatever you want to call it. So it wouldn't be too far out there to say that a new Zelda game is going to be coming to the Switch later on this year. And if one did, it would make sense for it to be a smaller title as opposed to a bigger title, because if they want Link's Awakening to be the big title this year, then they don't need to overshadow it with another. Especially if the other game is also a Game Boy Color or a Game Boy remake, as this would be. So I don't know. There's several different things that it could be, but I looked through a list of all of the Zelda games that they've had before, or that they've released, because I was trying to find, like, the last Zelda game was Breath of the Wild or Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, if you want to count that. And then now we're getting Link's Awakening, which is a 2D remake. And I was trying to see if how many 2D games that they have released between 3D games.
Right.
And between Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, they had both of the DS games, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. So those would be two 2D games that released before a 3D game released. And then they had, obviously, both of the Oracle games.
Right.
I think there may have been another one before that as well. And I think there was a third time that two 2D games released between 3D games. And we know Nintendo has tons of studios that they have had work on Zelda games. Not Link's Awakening. Four Swords that they're talking about was originally made by Capcom. Right. And then the Four Swords Anniversary was made by Grezzo, or remade by Grezzo, who also went on to remake most of the 3D Zelda games, like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and they helped on Triforce Heroes and everything. And for the longest time, the rumor was that they were the ones working on this Link Awakening. I cannot talk. The Link's Awakening remake. But Nintendo hasn't said who's working on it.
That's true.
So we don't know if it was Nintendo, if it was Grezzo, if it was whoever. The only team that I would confidently say did not make it is Tantalus. Because Tantalus, I don't think they've ever remade a 2D game for the Switch. But they did say in the one interview, and none of their games that they had mentioned have been announced yet. But there was that interview that we covered a while back where they said that they were working on multiple remakes for the Nintendo Switch, because all they do is remake games.
Yeah.
So none of the games that they are working on has been announced. And I believe if this was one of the remakes, the Link's Awakening thing, then they would have mentioned that it was from Tantalus. I don't know. Or maybe they wouldn't have, because they want people to be more excited. And if people think or believe that it's being made by Nintendo and not a third party, then they'll be more excited, because they'll think the quality is a bit higher.
Right.
So, like, I don't know. Like, the main reason that I wanted to cover this after we looked at it, because before we started, we kind of talked whether we still want to cover it or not.
I had to kind of dissect it first to see if it was worth talking about.
And the main reason that I want to is because I'm sure there will be a bunch of other websites, because I came across this morning, I believe, is when I added it to the blog. But I think other websites, like Go Nintendo, will probably share it or something, especially because of the people that it involves, like Emily Rogers. But I think there'll be a lot of websites or YouTube channels that will try to cover it and make it really clickbaity, or not cover all of the facts. They'll just cover the rumor and not talk about any of the actual news or anything. And it'll have misinformation being spread. So
Yeah, and Mike Tendo 64's article was pretty thorough with the sources of like where these rumors came from and stuff. So it's pretty easy to see where they're kind of filling in the blanks and where they're pulling information. They even do have some quotes from Nintendo in the article. I think it's worth a read, but I wouldn't invest too much stock in it. But definitely, I can see it happening. Get your clickbait videos on. Even that headline for the article is a little on the clickbaity side, but only a little.
yeah, because we actually had to dig for the Zelda parts because it was like it was a bunch of information about a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, like Tetris 99 and Labo. And yeah, it went through a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, so is there anything else that we want to talk about this? Or do you want to move on to the Pokemon news?
I think we can probably...
Should we say Digimon?
Yeah, I think we probably close the book on that one. But
yeah.
Yeah, I just want to caution everyone, don't get too invested in this rumor, because it's very I don't know. It's very 50. I'm very on the fence about it. I wouldn't don't want to get your hopes up, So
yeah, and there was a lot of people in the chat. Not a lot of people. There's a few people in the chat earlier that mentioned the fan noise or whatever.
Oh,
and
yeah.
What had happened, I was unaware of this, but my microphone going to Daniel is my good microphone right here that you can see. But the microphone that was going to OBS was my camera microphone.
Oh.
So it was further away from me, so I was a little bit quieter, and the fan noise from my laptop was a little bit louder. And not only was it louder, but the quality of the microphone isn't that great. So, what's this? Hey guys, please read the shout out below. Thanks. The Man Boy Cave.
Thank you.
What is your shout out?
That's a good question. But
Triforce Heroes was a follow up because of the success. Okay, so Triforce Heroes. I think Triforce Heroes was honestly sort of the same thing that the Metroid game Federation Force was. I think they were both experiments. I can include this on the end of that last video since it's both Zelda.
Yeah.
But I'll go into both of them. But Triforce Heroes, they originally remade A Link to the Past. I think Miyamoto wanted a pure remake, like what Link's Awakening is apparently going to be.
Right.
They could trick us and be like, no, it's just like it's Link's return to Koholint Island or whatever. But anyways, with Triforce Heroes, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. With A Link Between Worlds, it's really late, guys. I'm sorry, my mind isn't quite working. With The Link Between Worlds, Miyamoto wanted to use the 3D technology on the 3DS to completely remake A Link to the Past, adding in a tiny amount of new stuff. Kind of like with Majora's Mask, they added in the fishing ponds.
Right.
So like a couple of original ideas they had for A Link to the Past, but may not have been able to do. So just very minor adjustments, like an actual remake of the game. However, Aonuma wanted to create an entirely new game. He didn't want to work on a remake. So they compromised to where they made what I call a reimagining of A Link to the Past, to where it's a sequel / remake or whatever, like Majora's Mask, remake to Ocarina of Time, Zelda 2, not a remake, a sequel, Zelda 2, a sequel to Zelda 1, Wind Waker, sequel to Phantom Hourglass, which is a sequel to Wind Waker, but none of the games are like a typical sequel to where they still use the same overworld and everything, whereas A Link to the Past is. But A Link to the Past already has a direct sequel in Link's Awakening. But Link's Awakening, being the direct sequel, doesn't even use the same overworld. So, anyways, that's why I call it a reimagining, as well as a sequel. But where Aonuma wanted to create something entirely new, I imagine while they were compromising, he probably had some ideas for 2D dungeons for this new game that he wanted to make that couldn't be put into A Link Between Worlds because A Link Between Worlds was to be very similar to A Link to the Past, and these dungeons would have just really stood out. They did change around a lot of the dungeons, but thematically a lot of them are still the same. Like the way they look and everything are basically the same. So I think they took those ideas they had for dungeons, and with Aonuma wanting to make a new game and the 3DS being multiplayer and everything, and then they had the team with Grezzo helping them and stuff. So that's where I think Triforce Heroes came from, is they still had the engine, all of these ideas from when they did want to make a new Zelda game, and Aonuma wanted to, and since A Link Between Worlds had already released, they just went ahead and like used all of the extra ideas and stuff they had for whatever the new game is, and just made this experimental Triforce Heroes, because they were working on Breath of the Wild at the time, and Breath of the Wild originally was supposed to have some multiplayer functionality. One of the very first things that Aonuma said about Zelda Wii U or Breath of the Wild was that he didn't want you to think of it as a single player experience. And obviously, Breath of the Wild is entirely single player. You have Wolf Link, but that's about it. So I think his need to make this multiplayer Zelda game, I think Miyamoto or Iwata or whoever was had the final say told Aonuma no, that he could make a multiplayer Zelda game like a smaller game on the 3DS, and if it did well, then he could make his big multiplayer Zelda game, which apparently is what happened, because once again, after Breath of the Wild released, Aonuma's interviews were him saying that he wants to make a multiplayer Zelda game. So that's my idea and thoughts on how Triforce Heroes came about, and it's kind of the same thing with Metroid Prime Federation Force, to where I think or it was kind of like the Star Fox adventure game on the GameCube, to where it was originally Dinosaur Planet or something like that.
And it got rebranded.
Yeah.
To be Star Fox.
Was it Rare that was working on it?
It was Rare, yeah.
Yeah, they were working on it, and they had this entirely new IP, but Nintendo didn't really think it would sell as well. And they were like, wait a minute, we haven't had a Star Fox game in a while. Why don't you just make all of this Star Fox? Yeah. And then that way, like, you can make the people that want a Star Fox game happy. The game will likely sell more because people know the Star Fox brand and everything. So I think Federation Force was kind of the same situation, to where maybe they were working on an entirely different game or a newer IP, and they were just like, well, we haven't had a Metroid game in a while. Everyone's wanting Metroid. I said Metro, didn't I? I can't talk. My mouth is dry.
You said it.
We, so basically Nintendo looking at it being like, okay, well, this is interesting. You have this weird mini game, sports ball game in it, whatever it was called. Do you remember?
Blast Ball?
Yeah. So like they had that in there and stuff, and then Nintendo basically being like, well, this looks okay, but if we want a lot of people to buy it, why not just make it a Metroid game? Yep. And then that, yeah, because there was the interview. There's the interview Reggie had at that E3, like I think it was at the E3 directly, like the same day or maybe it was the next day. Reggie was like, "We know this isn't the Metroid game that fans want, but we know the game that fans want." So like he kind of hinted at like, we know this isn't what the Metroid fans wanted, but don't worry because we're also working on the game that they do want. We just can't say it yet, so I'm just kind of being vague about this game. That's my thoughts. But what's yours?
I got nothing. I do want to...
Nothing at all?
It's not related to what you were saying at all. But the man Boy Cave mentioned his shout out in the chat, so I just wanted to shout him out to his dog Bolt. I'm really sorry to hear about what happened, man. Boy.
Oh, I gotta scroll up and read that.
So he said, I love this channel. I'm having a super tough day. My dog was hit by a car and passed away this morning. It's great to have you guys live to distract me for a bit. Please give a shout out to Bolt. He was an amazing dog. So, I mean, it's pretty heavy, guys, but yeah, I'm really man, and it's not easy. But I know you'll probably tough through it and you'll be okay. But yeah, man, my condolences. It's terrible.
That is really sad.
It is. I don't know. I'm not good at this kind of thing, but yeah, I'm glad we could be some company in the meantime. So
yeah,
thank you. You didn't have to donate for that shout out, you know.
No,
but we appreciate it. But you did not have to donate for that one, man. It got our attention, but yeah, we do read the chat a bit, so it's yeah, I almost feel bad that you give us money for that. So but yeah, man, well, hang out with us for a bit, and I hope it can be a good little hangout, good company in the meantime. So
yeah. Did you watch Chiblima's stream last week when she was doing the Twilight Princess on my channel?
I was not able to watch it because of timing reasons.
Layla was at my house, or obviously. I was watching Layla, and she doesn't she knows that I think she understands that I do YouTube or whatever, like I make videos for work and stuff, but I don't think she really understands. She's just like, she looks at the phone or the laptop or whatever, and she's like, that's you. And then I showed her some of the videos that had her in it when she was a baby, and like I was the one who basically did everything when she was a baby. So whenever I would go to work, I would work with her, which was kind of easier at that time because she wouldn't talk, or if she did, it wasn't like actual words or anything. It was just baby noises, which no one's going to complain about because it's too cute.
Everyone loves little loaf babies.
Yeah. But anyways, I was watching it on the TV, and I was trying to do something to keep her occupied. So I had the idea to have Kayla, or Chiblima, to give Layla shout-outs on the TV. That way, Layla would be like, this person on TV is talking to me. So there's a part where she takes the Wii U gamepad, and she like... Chiblima's video is like in the bottom corner. Right. So she holds the gamepad up to the very bottom of the corner of the screen.
Show her.
Yeah, and I'm like, it doesn't work that way. She can't see us or hear us. She just... Yeah, so like I had to explain it to her, but every single time that she would do something, like her mouth would like drop open and she'd smile really big. It was really cute.
I love it. That's heartwarming. So
tell us about Pokemon.
Pokemon, gotta catch up more. All right.
Dude, when I forgot.
I have too many tabs
open.
It's my
thing.
This is your thing?
Not the Pokemon, the other thing. I don't know. Because like you did the first one, I was gonna do the second one, and then we were gonna do the third one.
Do it. Or do you want me to just jump in with Pokemon? What do you want to do? Just what you want to do?
You can do the Pokemon one, and then I'll do something.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Elia Rose. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.